5 in the books and that. Yep, week 5 college football season has come and gone. Unfortunately, you know what that means. It's Sunday morning and it's time for another list of losers. Yep, your season is over. Week 5 edition. Let's just be honest about something though before we even get into this video. What a crappy weekend of football games, man. Very disappointing. We knew going in, there was not the big marquee matchups that we had last weekend with whoever it was, Georgia and Notre Dame, and Auburn and Texas A&M, I guess, or whatever, and a couple other ones. But when you looked at the schedule of games, I mean, there was at least some potential there. Like, oh, well, maybe these games will be interesting to watch. Or they were just a dry, boring. I mean, looking at every single game in the top 10 was a blowout. Except one. But seriously, the games were just not very good yesterday. And it makes life a little harder for Uncle Lou on Sunday mornings. But never fear. The trusty list is here. I got some losers for you. Where should we start? Let's start with Georgia Tech. This ought to be fun. 24-2 to Temple. Man, listen, Georgia Tech's season was over before it started. We all know that, switching around offenses and all that. There's zero chance anybody thought it would be this bad, is it? 2 points. I didn't know what this was. I thought maybe this was a basketball game that Georgia Tech got blown out in. But no, this was an actual football score here. 24-2 to Temple. Man, what a disgrace Georgia Tech is. 1-3? Wow. Jeff Collins better hurry up and get some of those recruits in there. I don't know what things are rough. Things are rough in the A. Yeah, A-Town down. Way down. They scored. Listen to the points Georgia Tech has scored this year. 14, 10, 24. What, they exploded. Offensive explosion here against the Citadel. 24 points. And then 2 yesterday. 14, 10, 24, and 2. Pitiful. Absolutely unacceptable. Georgia Tech fans might as well just become like Tennessee fans and just fold it up and just wait on basketball season. Speaking of basketball season, Georgia Tech, what are you doing? Listen, these Georgia Tech people in the comment section, which I say this all the time, they're like groundhogs. They don't come up out of their hole very often. But when they do, they don't talk football. What do they talk? Academics. That's it. They want to talk about academics, and they want to talk about, well, Georgia just cheats. Georgia cheats. Buying recruits, they're cheating. Georgia cheats. We do things the right way at Tech, and we have higher standards and blah, blah, blah. Well, can you explain to me why it is that if you're so much smarter than Georgia, and all Georgia does is cheat, then why you keep getting caught cheating and put on probation? This is twice now in the last 10 years, going back to Calvin Johnson. What are y'all doing? Man. Or not Calvin Johnson, whoever it was. Anyway, you got in trouble in football 10, 12 years ago. You had to vacate wins, probation, all that kind of stuff. And here we are in 2019, and your basketball team can't keep their nose clean. Now, this isn't really a new story because this investigation has been going on for a couple of years, but the NCAA finally wrapped it up. Boy, they take their sweet time, don't they? They could have came to Uncle Lou 2 years ago, and I could have told them what to do and saved themselves a lot of time and money. But in any case, the basketball team, what are y'all doing over there with the Georgia Tech basketball team? Taking high school kids to strip clubs. Man. Well, what a stand-up institution Georgia Tech is, isn't it? Wow. Taking high school recruits to strip clubs, getting caught, giving money to potential transfers. Now, this is just hilarious, other than the obvious, which is you point your finger at UJ all the time because you can't beat them in football. So, well, they must be cheating. They must be cheating. And Georgia Tech is super smart. Well, if Georgia is cheating, then they're way smarter than you because they don't keep getting caught every 5 or 6 years. Jeez, man. Georgia Tech, 4 years probation in basketball, postseason ban this year from basketball, and you're still keeping that coach. What a damn shame. It was a personal friend of that coach that was paying those transfers, the $2,000. But Georgia Tech going to keep the coach. You did get rid of that or separated yourself or whatever from the booster that was organizing all these all-night strip club parties with 16 and 17-year-old children. Man, Georgia Tech, what a stand-up institution the Georgia Institute of Technology is. An absolute disgrace. Zero moral fiber. No moral fiber at Georgia Tech. And what's sad and what's a shame is they're like Ole Miss. They keep getting caught cheating, but they don't have any of the benefits of cheating. Where are the Georgia Tech titles over the last 10 years? You won the ACC in football, which was vacated, so I'll give you that. You did win the ACC. That's all you did. That's more than Ole Miss did, but I mean, at least when Southern Cal was cheating, they were winning national titles. I don't understand. Same with Clemson. Clemson cheats, but they win national titles. So even when they get in trouble a year later, at least those fans still have the memories of going on that title run, right? But Georgia Tech is so stupid, they can't even cheat right in two different ways. Number one, you're not cheating enough, obviously, because you still can't win anything. And number two, you're getting caught every time you do it. Man, Georgia Tech is just a cesspool, isn't it? No moral fiber at all at Georgia Tech. Zero. Taking a bunch of kids to strip clubs, man. Paying transfer recruits these $2,000. Keeping the coach that was there when all this happened. What are you going to try to tell me, that this coach is the stupidest coach of all time? Didn't know any of this was going on? Stop it. Just because Georgia Tech fans walk around 365 days a year with their head in the sand doesn't mean the coaches do, okay? This Pastner or whatever, is it just a coincidence that your head coach's name is a dirty, filthy crook who's got his minions out taking kids to strip clubs? Is it just a coincidence that his name sounds an awful lot like pastor, but his name is Pastner or something? Anyway, it doesn't matter. You're a garbage can program in both football and basketball. You can't do anything without cheating. One thing you can count on with Georgia Tech, getting beat by Georgia every year in football and getting caught cheating every 6, 7, or 8 years. What an embarrassment of a program. You know what? You can keep the name Georgia Tech, but I wish you'd move out of my state. That's what I wish. Who's next on the doo-doo list? Kentucky. Kentucky, your season is over. And this is no fun for me to say because I went to bat for Kentucky in the offseason. I didn't think they were winning 10 games or had a chance to win the East or anything like that, but a lot of people told me that, Lou, Kentucky's going to be terrible. They lose too much. It was a one-hit wonder last year. And I said, I don't know. I know they lost Snell and Allen, and I don't think they'll be as good as last year, but I do think Kentucky will be a game or two behind that. Like, I think, didn't I pick them to go 8-4 in the regular season? Yeah, it doesn't look like that's happening, Kentucky. Yesterday was one of those games you needed to win. You already lost. Last year you beat Florida. This year you lost to them. Last year you beat South Carolina. This year you lost to them. You're 2 games behind you're 2 games behind the curve in terms of where you were at last year at this point in the season. So it's just going to be rough, I think, for you to get to those 8 wins. You're looking at a 6 or 7 win season, which means you still might not be quite as bad as most people in the comments section thought you were going to be, but I was also wrong. You're not going to win 8, possibly 9 games with a bowl win. It's just not going to happen. You just got absolutely humiliated by USC Junior. You had no offense. Listen, I had this game on out here last night during the live stream, and of all the games that were on, that was the one that you were able to pay the least amount of attention to, because literally nothing was happening for about 90% of that game. If Kentucky had the ball, you could just look away from the TV, and then you could look back about 3 minutes later, and South Carolina was going to have the ball, and then you could watch and see if they were going to be able to muster any type of scoring drive, which they did on 4 separate occasions, beating you 24-7 in Columbia. And no, South Carolina is not a good team, Kentucky. Don't try to tell me that. In fact, Kentucky fans have been laughing at South Carolina the last 2 weeks after getting drubbed by Bama at home and getting blown out by Mizzou on the road. So, just look at your schedule. Kentucky, Georgia, you're losing. Missouri will beat you. Tennessee, I can't go that far. Anyway, string of L's are coming for you. You're not living up to the expectations this year, period. Listen, last year, you got to gloat and brag and poke your chest out because you were way better than everybody thought you were going to be. When you do that, and you'll figure this out, Kentucky, if you ever start being good for more than once every 30 years, but you'll figure this out. If you brag and boast and stick your chest out when you exceed expectations or you do good things, you got to take your medicine when you crap to bed, and that's what you're doing. But Georgia Tech and Kentucky, I'm sorry, your seasons are over for all intents and purposes. Let's just be real, okay? It's just that's just sort of the way it is. Is there anyone else? Can I put Texas A&M on here again? Texas A&M might be the only team to get on this list after a win. My God, man. A miracle win over Arkansas. Listen, people looked at Texas A&M this offseason and they said, well, their record's not going to be great because look at the schedule, right? You had to play Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, LSU. I mean, that was 5 automatic L's or 4 automatic L's before the season even started. Some people, myself included, said, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they won one of those 4 games. And didn't I pick them to beat Alabama in the preseason? Yeah, that's not happening. Sorry, that's not happening. Texas A&M is the same team that they have been pretty much since entering the SEC. Texas A&M's expectations, at least, I'm not talking about their fans' expectations. I'm talking about what people expect of Texas A&M since they've entered the SEC, whether you talk about the media or, fans outside of Texas A&M, has not been that high, and they can't even live up to that. You had a good year or two when you had that crack baby Johnny Manziel running around. Outside of that, you're a perpetual disappointment. That's just what you are. And the word on the street is that you won't schedule Texas. That's the word on the street, okay? Now, I haven't looked into the matter, so I can't say with certainty what the issue with that is. But if it's true that Texas is actively trying to schedule you and you refuse or won't do it, well, then shame on you. You came coming into this season, you had the best, or you had the most experienced returning QB in the SEC with Kellen Mond. You had a group of playmaking wide receivers that were all 10 feet tall. Your defense was expected to be better year 2 under Jimbo Fisher. You lost Travion Williams, but you signed a good running back, and you had 1 or 2 coming back. Your offensive line was supposed to be better, and you've just looked abysmal. You've just looked bad, especially on offense. You had no offense against Clemson. Auburn pretty much shut your offense down, even though you somehow managed to get to, I think, 20 points in that game. And then listen, Arkansas is, how many teams are there? 130? Arkansas is what, the 110th worst or something? They're really bad. And you're extremely lucky to win that game. But I'm just going to go ahead and put you on the season is over list. People were asking me all offseason, Lou, what games were you? And I said, well, I don't know about worry. I said, but when I look at the schedule, there's 4 games that stand out. Notre Dame, Florida, Auburn, Texas A&M. Well, you can scratch Texas A&M off that list. You guys are in the toilet. And to be honest, I don't see you coming out anytime soon. Kellen Mond will be gone after this year, which means you're starting from scratch next year, which with whatever QB Jimbo Fisher manages to scratch up over there, I don't know. Your defense really is nowhere to be found lately. What was the Miles Jack? What was that defensive end you had for a year or two? Well, that seems like 20 years ago. Nobody on that team now that comes anywhere close to that. You're just a perpetual disappointment. I'm sorry. I'm going to put you on this list. I feel like I have to. So I did too. Who else? Tennessee. Man, I'm sorry, but your season is over. What did Tennessee do this weekend? Let's take a look. I don't want to spend too much time on Tennessee in this video. Plenty of time for that tomorrow with the Come Get You Some video. And people ask me, are you going to make a hype and hate video for Tennessee? Does a one-legged duck swim circles? I can't believe the number of people that have actually asked me that. Of course I'm making a hype and hate video for Tennessee. But Tennessee loses again this past weekend to something called, what is this? Bye week? Jesus. So you've lost to BYU and BYE. Throw that L to bye. Man, listen. Tennessee has 2 weeks to prepare for this Georgia game coming up. You know what that means. I expect them to play twice as bad. Tennessee's got a whole host of problems, but near or at the very top of that list is coaching. Ask yourself this. What's the worst game Tennessee has played this year? What game was it? That's right, Georgia State. That was the worst game Tennessee played. Which game has Tennessee had the most time to prepare for this year? That's right, Georgia State. Now, so far this season, which game is it that's going to give Tennessee the second most time to prepare? Georgia. Listen, when you have a terrible coaching staff, bye weeks work against you. So I expect Tennessee to come out and play twice as bad this coming week as they've played in most other weeks this year. That's what I expect. There's a lot of talk. I'm going to stop right now because I need to save. If I get going here, then there'll be no point in doing tomorrow's video. But Tennessee, your season is over. I promise you that. Yeah. So what is that? Was that 4? I don't even. Georgia Tech. Who else was on here? Kentucky, Texas A&M. Yeah. So those are the 4. I mean, those seasons are. Most of these aren't a surprise, but like I said, no real big upsets yesterday. But we almost had somebody on here, didn't we? Taters, y'all better start juicing immediately. What is wrong with Clemson? Clemson is not the number 1 team in the country. They're not. Yes, last year Clemson was the number 1 team in the country and the best team in the country and dominated. But we're 5 weeks into the season now. It's time to stop living off of what any team did last year. We've seen enough now from every single team, in my opinion, at least if you understand football even just a little bit. We've seen enough now this year with everybody having played either 4 or 5 games by now. We've seen enough to form opinions on these teams independent from last season. And Clemson is not the best team in America right now. And if they're still number 1 today when the AP and the coaches poll come out, not that those polls had much credibility to start with, but if Clemson is number 1 in either the AP or the coaches poll today, then it's a damn shame because Clemson has done nothing this year to earn or deserve a number 1 ranking. I'm not here to tell you Clemson is terrible. They're clearly a top 5 team, I think, okay? But just look at what the other top 5, 6, 7 teams have done this season, which is what these polls are supposed to be based on. And there is no justification at this point for having Clemson number 1. They should have lost that game yesterday. Dabo Swinney said it. Every analyst and idiot with a microphone on TV said it. Dabo said it right after the game. We got outplayed and we got outcoached and we should have lost. Yeah, you should have. But you escaped with a miracle win over a team that can't beat App State. Okay? Trevor Lawrence has not looked sharp all year long. This is starting to look more like a sophomore slump and less like a 1 or 2 game hiccup, okay? I don't know what he did in the offseason. We know what he didn't do because they're not allowed to anymore. NCAA started sniffing around at the end of last season, and Clemson got caught cheating with, injecting players with that tater juice, that banned substance. So I seriously doubt they're risking that by doing it again this year, and it shows. It really, really shows. Clemson has not looked great, especially offensively. The defense, you might even say the defense has played better, I think, than some people thought it would, Clemson, considering what they lost in the draft. But offensively, it's like a ghost town over there. I mean, they had 2 Heisman candidates heading into the season on offense, and Trevor Lawrence and ETN. You could scratch both them off your list, Jack. I'm here to tell you right now in week 5, neither one of those dudes is winning the Heisman, period. I'll give you my top 5 Heisman at the end of the video, but Clemson, you won, but you looked terrible doing it, okay? I don't know what to tell you. If you disagree with me, then you need to search your soul. That's about the best I can tell you, okay? Wisconsin, 24-15 over Northwestern. Is Northwestern a 1-win team or 2 or something? Not a good team. I mean, you had to play on the road. You did have a big win last week over Michigan. I don't know, maybe a little hangover or something. I've been high on Wisconsin. Yesterday was definitely the first time we've seen Wisconsin look beatable. They looked beatable at times in that game yesterday. Up until that point, they did not. They looked unstoppable. So that was a little concerning. Pitt, shout out to Pitt Panthers, man. Somehow found a way to beat Delaware 17-14. So those teams won but looked like doo-doo. Who won and looked good? Well, Washington beat Southern Cal 28-14. Notre Dame came from behind. They fell behind 7-0. They were losing, I think, by 3 at halftime, right, to Virginia. They dominated the second half, though, and they ended up winning 35-20. That was not all that surprising. And maybe you could say the same thing about Wisconsin in a different way, right? Wisconsin struggled after a big win last week. Notre Dame, I think, came out a little flat in this game after a demoralizing beatdown physically at the hands of my Georgia Bulldogs, and I think that showed in the first half. But it dominated the second half. You won 35-20 over an undefeated and ranked Virginia team, and that was probably the second toughest game you'll have all year. Georgia, of course, being the first. Notre Dame probably will coast through the rest of the season and finish 11-1 before getting humiliated in a New Year's Six Bowl because they're not making the playoffs at 11-1. We all know that. Wake Forest and Baylor both won yesterday. They're both undefeated. So let me introduce you to the new Cal. That's what we're looking at here. That's what we're seeing here with Wake Forest and Baylor. These AP and coach pollsters now are going to feel like they have to rank Wake Forest and Baylor because we're coming up to the end of September and they're undefeated. Therefore, they have to be top 25 teams, right? No. Told you last week, Cal had no business being ranked 15 just because they were undefeated and the only undefeated team left in the Pac-12. It was ridiculous. Cal, right on cue, Cal goes out and lays an egg this weekend. It won't be long before Baylor and Wake Forest do the same. Please don't show me a poll today that has them in the top 15. You want to put them 20 through 25 somewhere? I disagree, but I'm willing to accept that. But you have them anywhere near 15, you're just as potato as you were last week, okay? Let's give FSU some credit. They were leading at halftime and continued to dominate in the second half. So they avoided the second half collapse that's plagued them all year. They end up beating a terrible NC State team 31-13. But again, you got to give Florida State some credit. We ride them when they crap the bed in the second half. Yesterday they looked good in the second half. Let's give them some credit. OU, another day at the park here, 55-16 over Texas Tech. Penn State 59-0 over Maryland. Ohio State 48-7 over Nebraska. And Michigan 52-0 over Rutgers. Michigan rebounded with a meaningless win. No one cares about Michigan. Listen, Michigan, you could have won 152-0. No one is putting any faith, belief, or stock in you ever again until you beat a top 10 team. We've just seen this too many times now. And listen, if I'm jumping off the Michigan train, I was literally the last one left on it, okay? There's not even anybody steering that train now. It's completely about to careen off the tracks, but you're not beating Ohio State. I mean, there's nothing we've seen from you that tells us you are. So congrats on beating Rutgers 52-0, but I stand by what I said last week. Your season is over. You're not winning the division, and yet another year where you can't beat Ohio State. Sorry. It is what it is. Who's the best teams in America? Coming up on the end of September, in no particular order. Here they are, no particular order. Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Clemson. Those are the best 6 teams. There's maybe another 5 or 6 teams that I think are maybe one step behind that. And it's not hard for you to figure out who those teams are. But so you got another 5. Oh, Auburn. I almost forgot. I didn't do this on purpose. Auburn looked really good yesterday. I've been hard on Auburn on their offense. I've said nothing but good things about Auburn's defense all year, but I've been hard on Auburn's offense and Bo Nix. And Auburn's offense and Bo Nix played really good yesterday. They were out to a 21-0 lead really before that game even started. I mean, with 9 minutes to go in the first quarter, they were up 21-0. And with Auburn's defense, considering what Mississippi State has on offense, the game was over at that point. But Auburn continued to pour it on offensively. They looked good running. They looked good throwing. Bo Nix had some runs. Even Auburn's running backs looked good yesterday. So either Auburn's offense has finally figured something out, or that was just a glitch in the matrix. That's the good news. Uncle Lou telling you here Auburn looked good. So the Barners can stop crying at least for the last 2 minutes. But get your Kleenex back out, though, because Auburn plays 4 teams from now through the rest of the year that are currently ranked in the top 10. So, like I said, you guys have watched a month of football now. And I'm not interested in Auburn fans' opinions because we know what the Auburn fan is going to say. If you're not an Auburn fan, though, I want you to tell me, based on what you've seen right now, how many games Auburn is winning out of these 4. Florida, LSU, Georgia, Alabama. Okay? You still have to play those 4 teams. They're all currently in the top 10 in most polls. So pump the brakes a little bit on the national title talk, Barner. But you did look really good yesterday, and hats off to your offense. Played great. So yeah, name the best team. Who's the Heisman candidates? 4 or 5. I'm not completely sold on Burrow yet. Although I do feel like he deserves a spot on a Heisman list if you do a top 5. I'm just not sold on him completely yet in terms of doing what he's doing now for the entire season, but we'll see. With the top 5 in no particular order for Heisman, Jalen Hurts, Jonathan Taylor, Tua Tagovailoa, Joe Burrow, Justin Fields. I might make a separate video on Georgia fans' excuse parade when it comes to Justin Fields. I might make a separate video on that. It won't be today. Maybe tomorrow. I don't know. Anyway, congratulations to those of you who made it through week 5 unscathed. I say this every week. I'll end with it here. We all love college football. Yeah, I wish every team could win, right? It'd be great. But unfortunately, every single week, half the teams that play have to lose. So for 50% of you, enjoy your L.